Hello and welcome everybody to the latest episode of N1 from the End Zone with your favorite host, King NPV. Yeah, no, that's me. And today, ladies and gentlemen, I am being joined by the host of the Port City Uncensored podcast, J-Man Jack, ladies and gentlemen. J-Man, how you doing today, buddy?
Awesome. What's going on, Nelson? How you doing?
I'm good, brother. Bro, we were actually just having a quick little powwow before we went
Yes, we
live
were.
about what you're working on and what your experience has been like, and actually, what got you to start your new show? Let's start there.
Well, okay. Well, probably a few things. As far as podcasting in general goes, I've been kind of studying the art form for last few years. I got some, favorite shows I follow and stuff. Of course, everybody, knows about Joe Rogan, but there's other shows out there too. And so I've been following and, just kind of interested in, how it all happens and everything. Because I've been doing photography, video work for the last several years, done a lot of political consulting and stuff, covered a lot of campaigns here locally around Stockton, and also writing a lot. And actually, the kind of stuff that's actually gotten some results. Some of my content, for instance, resulted in stuff getting done in the city, like a mess cleaned up downtown along the railroad tracks. Another piece I did about the vagrants digging holes in the side of the freeway, and so my pictures and videos, eventually got forwarded to entities like Caltrans and the railroad people and stuff, and led to things getting done, like the messes getting cleaned up. Encampments, homeless encampments getting cleaned up and stuff along that line. So it's nice when you can do stuff like that in the community and see some results. So, as far as for the longest time, I'm thinking, well, I'd kind of like to do something along a podcasting line with this. And also following, since I'm into media, I follow trends and stuff. And, like market, I should say, like legacy media, network TV, traditional stuff is losing market share little by little every year. And what's exploding is the podcasting world. A lot of people can't understand why Donald Trump got elected. Well, it's because he went on Joe Rogan and did a 3-hour conversation. Okay. It doesn't get much more real than that. So where we're at now is kind of like, especially with the political scene in Stockton, you got your keyboard warriors out there, what I like to call, the dirt sheets. Because being a wrestling fan also, like I've drawn a lot of comparison between the wrestling business and politics. And it might sound strange to some people, but believe it or not, you can draw a lot of, comparisons and stuff. And so,
let's not forget that Donald Trump was a part of W. I think he's a Hall of Famer of W. So he's got a whole fan base. He was also on Celebrity Apprentice. Like his exposure to Americans, he's capitalized on that exposure. Let's not forget about that.
He understands media.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So this is basically the new art form, if you want to call it, the new way we communicate. We live in changing times. That's the bottom line. Technology has led us there, and technology is what moves us forward. Everybody's got a smartphone. Now everybody's online. The internet is everywhere. Nobody goes to doctor's office anymore. You go online and talk to your doctor. So that's the world we're living in. And so I've always believed now for a while that the Joe Rogan model has got to come down to the local level.
So, can I actually ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So, how do you feel about, like, for example, that's actually a really big thing. Like, we don't even go to the doctors, it's all virtual. I don't think I could get a proper checkup that way. I personally don't think I could get a proper checkup that way.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you. I'm one of these guys that kind of avoids doctors. There's a reason why I hit the weights every morning, and I cycle and I swim, and try and eat right. So knock on wood, I'm pretty healthy, but
J-Man, how
but
old
I
are
know
you?
people that do deal with
Because
that.
you look great you look great. I don't know how old you are,
Well,
but you
thank
still
you.
look
I
like you're in
appreciate
your
that. But
50s or 40s.
yeah, I work at it, and yeah, I'm just one of these guys that I can't sit still. I got to I got to always be doing something, and so yeah, and of course, if doing podcasting, you're basically sitting on your ass. So anyway, so yeah, you got to spend some time outside. But yeah, so that's kind of like where we got. And as far as my personal vision, I'm a big First Amendment guy. I believe in free speech. I absolutely hate censorship in any form or fashion. Cancel culture to me was just, more than I could deal with. And so, yeah, I'm glad that, some things have changed, since the last election, and we're kind of getting away from that. But yeah, for me personally, I guess the title of the show, Port City Uncensored. We let it fly. It's unscripted. Yeah, we do some show prep and stuff, but yeah, it's an open forum. And getting back to like I said, okay, yeah, the wrestling business. Okay, you have the dirt sheets in the wrestling business. Okay, you got dirt sheets in politics too. They're online. They're in the forums and stuff, and they've all got opinions and stuff. And somebody can get on a keyboard and type anything. It doesn't necessarily make it true. However, like what we're doing right now, we're having a conversation. It's live. We're hanging out. It's like you're hanging out with your neighbors. You're having an honest conversation. It doesn't get any better than this. And it's like one of our mottos is, real people, real talk, minus the keyboard warriors.
No, and we can do our research live, and we can disprove or prove theories. It's not necessary. It's a learning experience for everybody. It's not to be like, oh, I got you, or like to. It's just an honest conversation. We can share our opinions, and that's essentially what media needs to transform into. It because honestly, I stopped following politics. Right during Trump's first election, because every day the media was just all about the collusion with Russia, the collusion with. They stopped reporting the news on every news outlet. I had to go watch Ben Shapiro for a bit just so I could get some like actual news like worthy content, because he seemed to be like the only person to cover anything other than the collusion, than the Trump collusion. I missed I literally I missed what it used to be before that. And honestly, like I see why media has turned into what it's turned into today. And on it, I think it's great. What do you think of the state of the media today?
Well, as far as the new media, the podcasters, the alternatives, you know, that's pretty much what I listen to. I mean, you got a network TV, and what they're giving you of a story is just such a small percentage, such a small part of the story. If they actually were going to do a serious job in reporting it, they would need like a 3-hour program just for that one story. So, you're only getting a small bit. Of course, you got a lot of commercials running on network TV, and so much of it is just like you can see the bias on a lot of the networks for sure, and especially when they're going after political figures and stuff. You could tell when they're not reporting stuff honestly.
Do you feel like it's gotten worse over the last decade? Because I think it's just gotten blatantly obvious. Like they're just doing it. Either I think they're doing it for ratings on network television. To be completely honest with you.
Well, yeah, and of course that's always been a big thing, and ratings equate to advertising dollars. And now we've seen what happened here recently with Colbert, with Howard Stern. They're out. You know, they lost their gigs. I mean, when you're losing 40 million in advertising revenue, that's a significant number. Yeah,
Even though they've been getting the ratings bump that they've been like, I think they're still number one in their network for that time slot or whatever.
yeah, but
It does.
I think we'll probably see some more changes in that direction. It just seems to me that I think that the Trump hysteria amongst his haters is kind of like starting to simmer down a little bit. I think he's now become more mainstream, accepted more mainstream, because I've heard, like, okay, we were talking about Rumble earlier. Rumble is kind of the alternative media for, like, during the last 4 years, for the more conservative voices. And now it seems like, they're losing some viewership because the mainstream is starting to accept Trump more. So, he's going from like counter culture to mainstream. We're maybe seeing that shift.
Well, I was gonna ask, what do you think might be the reason behind it? Do you think Trump is kind of setting himself up for his career post the presidency? Because he's already basically set up. Is he more worried about his image? Is that the case?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, he can only do one term because he served one term already. So there'll be somebody else in there in 28.
Well, isn't there like right now a conversation where he's trying to circumvent that? I don't think it's possible. I think it would be very difficult for him to amend the Constitution so he could get like a third term. But
Yeah.
I think there's been conversations of that, hasn't there?
Uh, yeah. But again, I'd like to see it happen. I mean,
I really don't think it will. I think it's
I don't
just
think so
I think
either.
it's just like a tactic to scare people or something, like, I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. I really haven't been following too closely. Actually, speaking of political figures, you had the mayor of Stockton on your show recently. How
Absolutely.
how did that come about, my friend?
Well, I've actually known Christina a while. She's been in front of my camera a lot. She's one of my best subjects in front of the camera. And yeah, yeah, she's great. She's awesome. She's always, willing to talk, always honest. And she likes the show. Yeah, he says, "Yeah, watch your podcast, love it. Let's come on." So, yeah, as soon as there was an opening, yeah, we had her on, and again, it was a hangout. We had a conversation, and we'll have her back again. She's a friend of the show now, and speaking of that, I will have some surprises here coming up in the next few weeks as far as some guests that I'll be having on. Also, I don't want to,
Guys, so stay
divulge
tuned.
anything too quickly
Nah,
right now.
you're fine, brother. But guys, stay tuned to Port City Uncensored, and you'll be able to find his interview with Christina Fugazi down in the description once this video is fully posted.
Right. And again, we have the full episodes up on YouTube and Rumble for anybody, but I've also put up some clips this week, and she commented on we have this new energy company, Ava, in Stockton for electricity. And, a lot of people were complaining that their bills have actually gone up since they've taken over. And so, yeah, she addressed that. And yeah, I got a few thousand views on that, just that clip alone. And I got a few other ones out there. So yeah, she was a great guest, and yeah, looking forward to having her back. But yeah, like we had Jim Shoemaker on the other week before that. He's a congressional candidate, and yeah, and like I said, I've got a few surprises, in store in the next few weeks coming up. So yeah.
So my question to you is actually going to be like, what's your transition from being behind the camera to now being in front of it been like, and how do you like it?
Uh, we're at the point now where we're having fun, especially the way that I want to do it. Like I said, it's uncensored. We let it fly. and we're not bound to anything. I'm not part of anybody's stable. I'm not part of any of these dirt sheets that are out there. I'm strictly 100%. The show is 100% independent on its own, and that's why we have nothing better to do but than tell the truth and have fun doing it. And that's kind of what we're looking to do. For me personally, I'm not looking for a job in City Hall. I have no plans of never running for anything. So again, nothing better to do than to use the ways and means that I have to tell the truth. And so yeah, after all the time taking pictures and doing videos and interviews and stuff, it's kind of nice to, like, now I have this one show a week that I can focus on, and anything I have content wise gets funneled right into that. And
I get it. I as somebody that's been doing this for about a year and a half now, or almost 2 years.
I was gonna say about a year you've been doing it, right?
I've been doing it for almost 2 years, a year and 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a process. I personally just, best advice I can give you if you're doing it by yourself or with the partner, pace yourself, don't take on too much, and don't burn yourself out. Because there was a moment where last year in September I did great numbers. I got a ton of watch hours because ultimately for YouTube, the way you get monetized is the more people watch it, the longer people watch it.
Watch hours, yeah.
Exactly. You got your watch hours. You need at least, I think, 500 subscribers for tier 1, 1,000 for tier 2. But I got to a point where I did a lot, and then because I have like a real job, I have to maintain and support my family because I haven't monetized my YouTube yet. I took a massive step back for at least the better part of this year, to where I've just recently refound my rhythm and flow. And yeah, just the best advice I could give you as a new podcaster, and depending on what you want to do and what you want to accomplish, just pace yourself and know your limits so you don't have to experience that burnout, and enjoy the steady growth. Because sometimes you'll be surprised what'll hit and what won't hit.
Oh yeah, yeah, and yeah, you are surprised by that, but that's why I do one show a week right now. I did do one pop up on an assembly bill issue that came up for some friends of mine that I helped them out with. But and we're not opposed to doing an occasional pop up, show, if something interesting comes up. But yeah, my main focus is doing one show per week right now, and then see where it goes from then. But yeah, just doing one show, and doing it right, and hopefully successful enough to get some viewers and stuff. It's a bit of work. It does. It does, and it is.
But it's so rewarding once you start doing it and you start seeing the results that you want to see. So yeah, bro, you're doing it. You're doing a fucking excellent job, by the way. You have the personality, you have the demeanor. I think you've studied the art for such a long time, being behind the camera, that now it's just like a second art form for you, brother.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've kind of always been like that. My life is that if I want, I'll see something, and it's like, you know what, I think I could do that. And then I kind of work backwards. Like it's like I'll have a vision in my mind of what I want the finished product to look like. It's like, okay, now what happened right before that for me to get there? That's the step before that, and then a step before that, and then little by little, you can put the pieces together to eventually do it. So yeah, that's kind of how we got here. And I got my co-host slash producer Scotty with me here in the studio usually, and we have fun. I mean, he's a younger guy like yourself, and so I like to have that perspective as well. And the great thing about having Christina on was that we finally had a lady on for a chance, because usually it's a sausage fest, but
I know the feeling, bro. It's so hard to find females or women that want to talk about like sports or something, like just jump on a podcast. I don't know. I find it a little bit difficult.
Yeah, my bestie Donna, she jumped on a few of our early shows, but I mean, she works a lot. She's in real estate, and so, time is, oftentimes, people just don't have the time to jump on. So we're trying to, work through that a little bit. Hopefully, I'll have her back on, but uh, fortunately for me, luckily, I know the mayor, and so she was, generous enough to help us out, and but yeah, we'd like to get some more ladies on the show. It's always a good thing.
Just the fact that you have those connections and you're able to like get in your bag, that's gonna help your show and your what you're trying to do just grow tremendously. Actually, have you covered what it is that you ultimately want to accomplish with your show?
I mean, growing the viewership. Uh, I mean, that's the main thing. Keeping it, and then staying on top of it, keeping it going, keeping it interesting. I mean, that's actually quite enough to do to keep one busy. I think, but yeah, it'd be nice to maybe expand it, into a network where I could help some other creators come on board into the podcasting world. In fact, and it's something I wanted to bring up with Christina, because we're a little pressed for time, but I might be able to bring this up with some of our other guests here in the future. Is an idea I had for Stockton, and this is something that's actually been going on in New York City for quite some time. But we have a lot of vacant buildings in Stockton, especially downtown, and they don't know what to do with them and everything, and they're sitting there getting burnt down or whatever. Podcasting studios. But you take a building, you split up the rooms. Each room is a separate studio. It's soundproof. You got a desk, mics, camera. You got internet coming into the building, and you rent these places out by hour, weekly, monthly. And all a creator has to do is show up with his laptop, plug in, and broadcast.
They should literally just rent it out. They should create the spaces and rent it out per session.
Yeah.
Literally per session. They don't have to like have it for the entirety. Like they don't have to like rent it out just for them for like a month. They can have spaces like that. But that's an excellent idea. Like I literally think that would be amazing.
They're doing it in New York.
Why haven't they done it here? Wait, are the ones in New York sponsored by the city, or are they sponsored by?
I believe it's just a private.
Okay, so there has to be, I guess, some sort of like private enterprise that kind of comes in and does this, right?
Yeah, like I said, you basically, have to remodel a building, divvy it up into the spaces, and set them all up, for like, a little podcast studio. But yeah, I mean, I've watched a few shows that were, done from buildings like that, and some rooms are bigger. Like if you got want to have, like 4 or 5 people on a show,
Yep.
you got facilities for doing that. You got green screens set up, and, all the necessaries. Like I said, so a creator can just show up with a laptop, plug in, and go to town. Similar like back in the day when when I was playing music and I was in bands, we had rehearsal spaces. You'd rent the space for like a month, and you got your own padlock on it, and you can leave your equipment in there, and you had a place that was soundproof that you could be as loud as you want and not have to bother the neighbors. So again, it's kind of a takeoff on that idea. But again, we live in changing times. This is a new art form, and so I think it's something that's worth looking at.
So can I actually ask you a question? Now that we're talking about it, why do we not like? What do you think about converting some of the homeless shelter, or not the homeless shelters, but some of the like abandoned buildings into some sort of like homeless shelter? Because that is a big issue out here in Stockton.
Yeah, and it's something that we've talked about for quite some time, and there's a lot of different opinions on that and everything. And well, the thing is, there are like official shelters. There are shelters in the process that are being built now. As far as just converting, regular buildings, one of the things you gotta deal with is that you're putting people, you're dealing with a population that a large part of it, the problems stem from drugs. And you want to take someone who's a junkie, who's a meth head, who doesn't know how to take care of property, and they're going to move in that building. What are they going to do? They're going to destroy the place. And this has happened in other places before. They bust out the walls, windows, urinating all over the place. Santa Paula Way here in Stockton. There's been a couple of homicides on that block this year. I used to live there. These are all townhouses. They're like fourplex units, and they're two-story townhouses. And the rent is hella cheap there, but it's a nasty neighborhood. And there was the one, and they're all each fourplex is individually owned. It's not like it's a complex. So they all have individual owners. Some are out of town, out of state, whatever. And so we had the one fourplex, and it was vacant for the longest time. And so some people bought it, and they did the whole remodel thing. They got loans and whatnot. They brought everything up to code. And what did they do? Instead of going out and finding like qualified tenants that might have jobs and income and stuff like that, they decided they were going to help the poor. They were going to help the destitute and the homeless. And they went out and they found 4 basically homeless groups of people that they moved in there. In less than a year, probably closer to 6 months, I'm guessing, they ran that property back down to being condemned. They did that much damage. So that's the risk. That's one of the risks that you run with these places. I mean, you want to move people into a building that you own that might set fire to it. Yeah. So that's what you're dealing with. Down in LA, these where they have these kind of, they have round the clock security staff dealing with these people, which you really need. You need that kind of supervision and staff. Otherwise, you're going to have a property that's going to be worth nothing.
I was actually gonna say, isn't it possible to actually have something where it is being ran properly by people, like they have down in LA? Because honestly, that would also create jobs for people in Stockton if they're basically babysitting homeless people. I don't know. There's got to be something that we can do to clean up the streets out here. Because honestly, man, there are areas that should be nicer than what they are. And it's just because we have like a large amount of like homeless issues. Like downtown Stockton, in my honest opinion, could be the most beautiful fucking place in all of Stockton. But because of the issues with all the homeless people, it's just that it looks like a dump.
Yeah, and it's a shame. And Christina did allude to some of this the other night, in that there's been a lot of neglect in our previous years here. A lot of areas where previous administrations and leadership kind of dropped the ball, where they could have done more. And so now that they're trying to play catch up for a lot of it. But there are organizations, there are nonprofits that are doing that kind of stuff, and some of them could use maybe a little bit more help. And but then again, you do have shelter projects that always seem to be in the works. There's programs that always seem to be getting funding. There are people that have gotten incredibly wealthy off dealing with the homeless problem, but yet we still have the homeless problem on the streets. So, and I mean, statewide, the state has lost billions that they can't account for, that was supposed to help this problem that doesn't seem to be, being helped. And so, and so now we're seeing some push from the federal level that, Trump wants to, enable the cities more and more to clean up the messes and the vagrants and start doing something about it. And a big thing was, getting them out of the parks. camping in the park. So they finally did the Supreme Court ruling and said, okay, now we can get them out of the parks. And so, yeah, we're going to see a little bit more movement in that direction. For me personally, um, we can talk about the homeless issue all day and night. What you have to realize is what's going on here is going on right now in LA, in Oakland, in Frisco, in Portland, in Phoenix, in New York, in Detroit, Memphis, St. Louis. It's a national problem. It's been a national problem. And I've always felt that it's going to have to be addressed nationally before we see any real action on it. And with turning the National Guard loose on the streets and trying to enable cities to do more, I think maybe we're going to see some movement in that direction. But yeah, until we see some push nationally, it's hard to imagine that any one city or any one town is going to come up with the magic answer. But then again, it's also now becomes one of these things that every election cycle, this is now another issue that the politicians can say, hey, vote for me. I've got the answer. Yeah. Just like with taxes, just like with crime, just like with, a whole slew of issues has become one more thing on the plate. But what's important to know is that, and if you look at like a number of issues, crime and homelessness, for example, right here in Stockton, if you were to put this on a chart or like on a graph or an oscilloscope, you would see one solid line over a timeline of years. You can go back a few decades if you want. It's continuous, okay? Meanwhile, the people that have been in office are in and out, in and out. Above that line, you would see spikes instead of a continuous line, okay? So in other words, the politicians come and go. It's almost like they can be interchanged at any time, okay? But that machine called City Hall is always going to be there. Okay? So yeah, that's where we're at, and it'd be
the
nice
faces
if
may
instead of all those
change.
spikes, we see some consistency and some movement into getting some stuff done. So yeah, that's kind of my overall take on the homeless issue there.
I was gonna say the faces may change, but the objective and the message usually stays the same on all aspects, right? That's essentially what I got from that.
Yeah,
right. Because like ultimately, once Kamala steps away, or once McConnell steps away, once all of them step away, like there's already somebody else gonna take over and basically just run the same messages they've been running this entire time.
Yeah. A lot of the same narratives here on the news, or the things I heard on the news that my parents were watching when I was growing up. We've
still going on today. The whole civil rights issues that have been like a prominent thing since I think you were a child, right?
Right.
Like we basically it came back around in a prominent way. Like I think 4 or 5 years ago. It's not I don't feel like it's as intense today, but maybe that's just because I haven't been following the news lately. But I just don't feel like it's as intense as it was like 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's kind of mellowed out a little bit. Although a lot of the Trump haters, they like to throw the racist word around, accusing.
So like there are people that make, and this is like from the African American community, like they make everything a race perspective. Well, not everybody in the African American community, but a large majority of them take things, if they don't go necessarily their way, and take it as a race perspective, when I don't necessarily think it has to do with race. I think it has to do with like other aspects like qualifications what's gotten you to that level. Like for example, right now, and I'll give you an NFL example because that's my wheelhouse. Okay,
Right.
Shador Sanders with the Cleveland Browns. I never thought he was a first or second round pick based on his college career. I saw what he did at Jackson State for the first 2 years. I wasn't that impressed, mainly because he had NFL coaches. He had his dad there. He had like an NFL program behind him, and he wasn't necessarily spectacular at Jackson State. Once he got his shot in Colorado, again, once Travis Hunter went out, once he was missing a few pieces, I felt like he was extending plays too long. I just didn't see why he should have been a first or second round pick. I thought he was just being put in that position because of his last name. Now, once the Cleveland Browns doing what, like going through the whole quarterback competition, drafting him in the 5th round, the sports media has come out and basically said he shouldn't have been a 5th round pick. He should have been a 2nd round pick. Or it's just they are trying to put him in a position, even though the Browns drafted a quarterback in the 3rd round who has more experience, who has played at a higher level for a much longer time in a more consistent way than Shador. But the national media or the national sports media wants it to be Shador Sanders. They're telling them, oh, they should make him the second quarterback on the depth chart. When in reality, he hasn't merited it. Like he had one good preseason game against 3rd and 4th stringers of a team that is in a rebuilding phase, who don't even have a good first team out there. And they just keep pushing that narrative when I think Shador has the opportunity to be a Hall of Fame potential quarterback. However, he needs at least a year or a few games where he's watching and developing and
Right.
learning and like experiencing what it takes to be in the NFL before
Right.
he's ready to be an NFL caliber quarterback. I don't think he needs to be put in a position where there's a reason why he was drafted in the 5th round. There's a reason why 32 teams passed on him 4 or 5 times before they picked him up in Cleveland. Like they need to let him develop, and it's a disservice that they're doing to the young man. And I think it's because of the race. Because Dylan Gabriel, he's a white player who played for Oregon, who they drafted in the 3rd round. It's one of those things that kind of bothers me. Sorry.
No, I hear you. You know, and yeah, absolutely. You know, for a guy in that position, yeah, you need some development. You
Right.
know, I mean, that's probably going to serve him better than anything else. You know, if he wants a career. Uh, you know, so yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with you on that for sure. It's unfortunate that some people feel that they got to, you know, play that card to,
All
you
the
know,
time.
get through life. You know, I don't know.
Like I was
you know,
watching what was it? I was watching The Breakfast Club, and there was an incident where I think it was a white American, a white celebrity American. I forget what happened. He did something, and the last thing from one of the female producers or one of the female hosts that she said was, "Oh, if this was a black man, you know the circumstances or the scenario would have the outcome would have been different." And Charlemagne the God, the one of the hosts, the more well known host, he came out
uh-huh.
and said, "I don't think that's an issue." So there are people that will defend, but there are people that just are so, I feel like their minds have been warped by how they've grown up in society that it's just like any time like something happens to like a white person and then the same situation happens to a black person or whatever, like they're just so warped where, oh my god, why is this happening for this person like this and this person like this when the scenarios are completely different.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, this is what happens when, you know, politics infest all different aspects of our lives, and unfortunately, there's a lot of people, especially on the left, with agendas that they kind of rely on the whole race thing, you know, and as part of their argument, you know, and trying to base everything on that. You
Our
know,
country's name is the United States of America.
exactly.
The first word there is united. Why the fuck are
Right.
we so divided?
Yeah. Well. I mean, there are some nefarious people out there that, well, if we're divided, we're easier to control. So that's something you always want to keep in the back of your mind. Just for me personally, I have friends of every color, race, and creed, and just the way I've always been. For me, I'm a libertarian, and I pick the individual over the group.
Exactly. I don't. So that's the same way I kind of was raised in how I grew up. I don't see color, or I see just your skin color, obviously, but I don't see you as your skin color. I see you for who you are. You're a
Yeah,
human being. Like, come on,
right.
bro. There's
Yeah,
never, there's never. Obviously, people are always gonna make like racist jokes, but there are like how comedians used to say like the N word and used to say like stupid things that weren't necessarily like of that color. But now you'll get canceled for doing racial jokes like that,
oh yeah.
which I think is, in my honest opinion, is dumb. Because these people I don't think are racist. I think these people are just genuinely trying to be funny. And for some
Right.
people, racial jokes are funny.
Yeah, and I mean, you ought to be able, we ought to be able to laugh at each other. We ought to be able to laugh at ourselves. I mean, if going back in time, if I just imagine if people would have laughed at Hitler and his gang of cronies back in the 30s as the pipsqueaks and clowns that they were, maybe a lot of pain and suffering would have been avoided. If more people had that kind of attitude. Again, as I was saying, like, I've always been like a libertarian or more libertarian leaning, and we respect the individual and individual rights as opposed to group. A lot of people on the left, they practice groupthink, and they're always into groups. But what's the one thing about groups? I don't care who you're talking about, black people, gay people, any group that you want to talk about, they're all made up of individuals in that group. Okay. So for me, I judge people as an individual. I don't care what you look like. You're either a good person or you're not. Hopefully you're a good person. Okay, that's who I want as a neighbor. Okay, again, I don't care. If you're in somebody that came here as an immigrant, fine. You're obeying the laws. Your kids are well behaved. They're not tearing up the neighborhood. You're a good neighbor. Fine, I got no problem with you. Well, and as a libertarian, we kind of recognize, look, people are what they are and who they are, and you got a lot of black dudes in the NBA. Okay, you got a lot of Asian kids at Harvard. Either one of those facts should be a surprise or a big deal to anybody. Okay, because if there's a black guy out there that's smart enough to go to Harvard, hey, he can go. God bless him. If there's an Asian that can play basketball, good for them.
There's literally an NBA player that just got drafted. His name is Yang Hassan. He's literally the next Yao Ming, basically. And there's literally a former NFL player went to Harvard and graduated from Harvard. He's an African American player. What people don't, I think, fail to understand is like the way these cultures basically raise their children. Like, Asian community raises their child to be a top elite educated student or educated human being. Usually, I'm not speaking for everybody, but usually, and then that's what motivates them and gets them into Harvard. That's why the population for the Asian students in Harvard is so high. Same thing with NFL players. These kids from a very young age, their parents spend tens of thousands of dollars in developmental programs, in programs for their children to become athletes, to become these things, because it's just what their culture is all about. It's just people don't want to accept that and expect people to just, I don't know, man.
Well, what the political left likes to do is they look at that and they say, "Oh, that ain't right," but we want to fix it.
That's I think why the Democrats have been having issues. Uh, the election with Biden, I think the narrative had been so warped on Trump after his first campaign, because I didn't think it was a bad, like, his first term was not that bad in my honest opinion. I thought
Yeah,
he accomplished a few of the things he set out he was going to be accomplished. And personally, even though COVID was a horrendous time for everybody, I was still able to get a house with a relatively low interest rate, to like at the age of 20, right before I turned 21. Like the economy, in my honest opinion, at that point was better. Then we had the Biden administration come in over and take over, and I felt like because of his competency issues, and just because he was the face or the secondary face of the Obama administration, they basically plugged him in. But at that point, he was on a decline, where even after his 4 years in office, where they should have planned something if they were so scared of Trump coming back in, they had no plan, no agenda. They had nothing to necessarily prevent Donald Trump coming back and like doing what he's doing now. And now
right.
they're trying to like point fingers and blame Trump, when in reality you had technically 4 years to come up with a plan to prevent this. Technically, you had 8 years if you were going to go Biden, and then you knew Biden wasn't going to do a second term.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just the Democratic Party is so lost. Even now, when the next term, the presidential election comes up, I don't have any trust or faith in the Democratic Party to have a candidate that is viable to go up against whoever the Republican candidate is going to be.
Well, Gavin Newsom seems to think that he's going to be the man at 28.
Crazy. This is the same governor who shut down the fucking state of California while leaving his businesses open during COVID. That's one of the biggest fucking irks that I cannot get over. This is when I was still following politics relatively. But it's one of those things, like, how can we have, I don't know, man. Politicians are fucking screwy.
Well, yeah, they're definitely a strange breed, and yeah, I mean, what he's done to the state, but the scariest part is that the guy was elected twice and beat a recall. Now, see, and this is another thing with me personally, that I've kind of developed over the last few years, especially covering a lot of these people, is that I can only look at these politicians and candidates and so-called leaders to a certain point. I can only blame them to a certain point. Why? How did they get there? Somebody had to vote for them, right? In fact, a large number of people had to vote for them. That's when I got to stop looking at them, and I got to, turn around in my Italian leather chair and look at my neighbors. And I got to listen, what are you guys doing? Are you even paying attention? Do you know what you're voting on and stuff? And
at the end of the day, just vote for the name that they see on the ballot that they like, or the person that they know. Because sometimes they don't even go to campaigns or do any research when they go to vote.
Most don't. Yeah, most don't. And like the good sheep they are, they're attracted to the shiny object. And if you got a candidate that can be the shiny object, and you got enough cash behind them for the lawn signs and the radio spots and all the other horse shit that goes along with a campaign, well, then, he's got a good chance of getting plugged in. But, again, whenever you're looking at some politician or some guy, you reading the news, I did something, out of whack or whatever, just remember your neighbors voted for him. Your neighbors helped put him in there. So maybe you need to talk to your neighbors and say, hey, bro, what are you doing?
Yeah. What the fuck, bro? Did you think this through?
Yeah. And so that's literally what we gamble on, with our leadership. And when getting somebody conscientious and good in there, it's almost like a roll of the dice, because there's a lot of grifters out there. There are a lot of opportunists, and there's a lot of people that, look at it as a career. And, you got to look at some of these Congress people that, uh, you know, they make what, 100,000 or something a year salary, but they leave, they're multimillionaires. Yeah.
It's all because of the connections that they make while they're in those positions. And
Absolutely.
the politicians get into politics to set themselves up for the long-term future and the long-term success. You'd be surprised how many politicians have filed for bankruptcy, have committed credit card fraud, have been prosecuted for things that you wouldn't even know about if it was if it was really put in the public spotlight, but it's not. It's just buried underneath the rug, and that's been going on for years, years. And I don't think it'll ever stop. To be completely honest.
I mean,
and you know what? My biggest issue personally, I think here is there are things that could just better society, like the United States or the world in general, when it comes to technological advances, when it comes to different things that we could see in our lifetimes. But because we are so divided, it just prolongs us being able to hit that ultimate goal, which would be being not autonomous, but getting to a utopian type society. I don't think we'll ever get there in our lifetime, but it would be something that we should all aspire to be, right?
oh yeah. I mean, I mean, it's like, I hear people they're into peace. They want to see nuclear disarmament. And better world. And I don't knock their, what they're talking about or their goals, their aspirations. I mean, they're good, ideas, good way to think. However, the reality is of the world that we live in,
I don't think it's possible with all the with not just the United States. There's issues globally with leaders and powers that be. There's huge issues. You can't trust anybody at all.
The number of nukes in the world. I mean, you got to figure our civilization has advanced the technology that we've created enough destructive firepower to destroy us all. And
I think we could destroy ourselves 3 or 4 times over with all the nuclear weapons that are on the planet.
Yeah, and it's insane. Well, first of all, it's insane that if you and I walked into a bar and took a swing at somebody, we'd go to jail. But yet, nation states can wage massive war and destruction on a huge level, and it's okay.
Well, our nation states,
a country, you think about that, and it's kind of crazy, but somehow we managed to use our technology to create enough destruction to destroy ourselves. Why couldn't we use that same technology and that same power to better ourselves? To where nobody's starving on this planet, and we actually are exploring space and colonizing Mars or building space stations and stuff.
That's what I want to see, because I don't know if you know this, but I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was around 2020, 2022, where there was a conversation or a report that came out that Elon Musk was going to send a spaceship to Mars. So we could basically kind of start colonizing it, right? I think it was going to be I forget how many people were going to be on the program, but I think it was scheduled to go out in 2026, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that would be next year. And I swear to you, the reason why they created the Tesla robots was to put those things on that SpaceX ship, send it to Mars, because those things don't have to breathe air, and those things in Mars could essentially help us start developing and colonizing the planet, or developing structures for people to live in with oxygen and all that type of stuff, right? So there's things like that are in the works, but because of the way the world is right now, especially with the whole Elon Trump thing, where I think there's gonna be like issues getting there. I think there's issues getting to that point where they can send that spaceship out to Mars next year. I haven't done any recent research on it. That's something I need to dive into. But it's stuff like that I kind of want to see. Like I think they also came out with like a flying car and stuff.
that, yeah, that I like to see, but yeah, it's funny that that Elon has kind of picked up where NASA left off. He kind of pulled their trash out of the dumpster and said, "Hey, I can do something with this." And
I mean, literally, what is it? The Tesla headquarters is like 10 minutes away from a NASA base.
yeah,
So you could just drive there, and I think just hey, I want to buy this. It doesn't surprise me, to be completely honest with you. Like he has more money than God. Um,
yeah, he sure
like
does.
the stuff he can buy, the stuff that he's come out with. And honestly, you've watched the movie. Have you watched the movie I, Robot with Will Smith?
No, I haven't.
So that movie is essentially like humanoid robots in a futuristic society, and basically I think something happens where all the robots get corrupt. When I look at the Tesla robot, I see the iRobots from that movie because they have
Uh,
like like they just look so human like.
yeah,
Not they don't have face or flesh or anything, but like it's a human body.
yeah.
I don't know. So this is a good question. How do you feel about the development of AI and then having humanoid robots having the capacity to have that AI installed into them?
Well, if you're gonna send them to Mars, it's probably a good idea. Uh, One of them as capable as possible. Uh, I don't know. I think AI in general it's still I think it's still developing. I think we're still going to see some more changes coming down the road with it. But yeah, robotics and AI, it's seems to be the direction we're going.
Are you afraid that there might be like a moment where something happens where like the robots turn on the humans? Now these are just like hypothetical questions, and I'm going completely left field. We're going into science fiction mode for like
Oh
4 minutes
yeah,
here.
yeah,
Because like that's essentially like the one and only concern that I kind of have. Like, because essentially, if you really do think about it, with the way that AI is being developed and putting it in a humanoid robot with limbs and everything, what's to say those robots aren't technically human? I understand it's artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence is somewhat calculates more than our human brains can at this moment. However, that doesn't take away that they can't develop necessarily feelings and stuff like that.
yeah. Well, now we're
We're going
developing
into
feelings. Yeah, I know because we're talking about robot. We're talking about something that's made out of steel and electronic parts, and there's no blood or bones or human humanness to it. Uh, I don't. I was just recently looking at these robot dogs that they've developed, and they're actually going to use them for like law enforcement and riot control. And I mean, these things are so advanced. I mean, they look and move like a dog,
they do more
but
tricks than dogs, don't they?
they've got facial recognition, software built in so that they can go through a crowd and spot wanted criminals and people with warrants. I mean, yeah, they're literally that advanced. And yeah, I mean, one good thing is that you can utilize them in ways that you're not going to put human lives in danger. If the military is using them and police, and we're not putting our guys in danger and stuff like that. They're good for that. uh but as far as robots taking us over, I mean, as far as I know right now, it's still humans that are building them and programming them, and hopefully it stays that way for a while.
by the time we get older, man, you just might not know. Like wars could be fought with robots, and then
Oh,
the scariest
yeah.
thing is sending, like, for example, you just send a fleet of robots to somewhere like in Iraq, or same thing could happen to us, and then we're attacked by robots. It's a crazy. It's crazy times we're living in, and all these scientific things that like we saw in like Back to the Future, Terminator, all these things that came out when you were probably a kid, when I was a kid. All these things now in today's society are slowly starting to become a reality, and
Yeah.
that's because technology is developing, and that's not to mention what the army and the navy and the armed forces, everything the government has developed, that's not in the public eye, because they always
Oh,
have
yeah.
better stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, they're on top of a lot of stuff. Chips, microprocessors. I mean, that's what so much of this stuff runs on now, and military equipment uses chips. My son is in the semiconductor racket, so it's kind of a subject that's near to me. And you got a robotic fly, a little mini drone. Yeah, yeah. What surprised me is they came up with little mini, like, fly sized type drones and stuff.
They have those now, don't they?
I think I remember seeing something a
Yeah.
while back, but yeah, I remember in the 80s. I don't know how much you're into comics, but in fact, I just got it in book form, the graphic novel. There was a comic that came out in the 80s called Shatter. And yeah, it was the first comic done on a Mac computer, to where, instead of old school, drawing, comics frame by frame.
Do you have it with
I,
you, like right there, so you can kind of just show it on the screen?
uh,
If you don't, it's fine. Shut up. I need to look
I'd
at
have
it.
to hunt it down, but I'll have it for tomorrow's show when you come on.
Awesome. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of it takes place in the future, I mean, and it's like, it's a world where everybody's a temp, like with your job, everybody's a temp, like you work through a temp service, like what we did, you know, and yeah, and he's like a cop who works as a temp and gets assignments, and he's everybody's in flying cars and stuff, but they had these things, they're called roach bombs, and they look like bugs, like roaches, and they could fly out and attach themselves like magnetically to vehicles and stuff, and then blow them up. And they were completely electronic, but in the storyline, they did have one organic part, and that was the brain of a rat. They use a rat brain, and then totally robotic, like a roach body and legs and stuff. So yeah, that's it just reminded me of that and what we were talking about. But yeah, that was a comic in the 80s that was about the future. And uh it's somewhat, yeah. Yeah, like I said, I gone back and looked at a few things that I liked back in the day that now you can get in book form, the graphic novels. But
Oh, so like it's basically the entire Shatter novel in just one book.
yeah, it was a series, and so yeah, they combined all the stories into
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
yeah.
I'm gonna be real with you. Things like that keep you young.
Probably, yeah.
No, like I'll be honest, like bro, like I live for like that nostalgia feeling. I love watching things that I used to watch as a kid. And it makes you feel peaceful. Puts you in a good mental health state, and it just makes you feel young, which then like kind of you show that in your person and in your everyday life. At least I think that's how it works.
Oh, yeah, and if there's something that turned you on back then about it, made you feel good, and you can, it's kind of revisiting that, little renewal, reset, whatever you want to call it.
And 1,000%. Are there any is there any comic or novel that stood out to you from a kid aside from that Shatter one?
Uh, well, growing up, I used to be, Marvel, like Captain America, and Nick Fury.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, growing up with those guys. But then in the '80s, I kind of started getting into it a little bit more. Uh, the Green Hornet, one of my favorite characters.
Did you watch the show with Bruce Lee?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I still watch it on YouTube every now and then. Yeah, yeah. Bruce was awesome in that. And oh yeah, in fact, yeah, the 1930s, the old black and white serial, also the Green Hornet. So that's a character that has a good storyline. But there were some comics out in the '80s that had like the next generation, like there was the Green Hornet from like the '60s. That would be the Bruce Lee era, and then like his in the story. Then it continues like he had a son and a daughter, and the daughter eventually became the new Kato. The son became a destitute drunk and loser, and so she became the new Kato, and then the new Green Hornet was like Reed's son, and so yeah, there were some comics like issue that continued the storyline.
I'll be honest, I didn't even know that like the Green Hornets had like a whole continuation series like that. I thought it was just like a couple of like comics. I didn't think it had like a multiverse or anything like that either.
Oh yeah, and then there was the movie they did. What's his name? Seth Rogen.
See, that's the Green Hornet that I watched in theaters when I was a kid. I loved it.
Okay.
I walked out of that movie wanting to be a fucking superhero because I'm like, if Seth Rogen could be the fucking Green Hornet, there is no way. There's some sort of way that I could do that shit too.
Yeah. Oh, and the car, the Black Beauty. I mean.
Oh yeah, classic, beautiful thing.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, the Green Hornet was one of my favorite characters. And then yeah, during the '80s there was another series called John Sable Freelance. It was about a guy who's basically a mercenary type of dude, private eye bodyguard, and gets into all kinds of adventures and stuff. And he's really cool dude. And I was able to find they put his collection together in a couple of books, and I was able to get one of those. So
that's awesome, dude. I'm glad. I'm gonna be real with you. I want to age like you're aging, brother. Never lose touch with my inner child, because that's the goal in life, man. Have your kids, love your kids, be there for them, and still be a kid too at the end of the day.
Yeah. I guess it helps. Yeah.
I see you got a lucha mask back there. Do you? I know you follow the local Stockton wrestling closely, don't you?
Yes, especially the TWF, Total Wrestling Federation, and they will be here September 13th at Eagles Hall, Saturday night, and it's always a good hang. Got the gang from the 209 Click, all the guys from the Dragon's Den and Lodi, and I've been following them since for a while now, and I see them getting a little better and better every show. And they're doing a lot of shows now all over the map. They're really doing a lot to put this area on the map as far as the indie circuit. So they will be at Eagles Hall on the 13th, and I know we will be there. It's kind of rumored the Port City Underground guys might be doing a little something that night special. And we'd like to have you join us if.
I'd love to, dude. I haven't. So I don't know if I ever told you this, but I went. I used to train for Pro Wrestling Revolution.
I remember. Yeah.
So I did it for about 6 months. It was an amazing opportunity. You know what's crazy? The time I did that, had such a big impact on me. I had the opportunity to meet Psycho Clown, who's now in WWE.
Ooh.
I had the opportunity to meet Cain Velasquez and his family, his beautiful
Ah,
family, although he's in jail for obvious reasons. I don't blame him, to be completely honest with you. I am a supporter of Cain Velasquez, even though he's in jail. Good for you, brother. You got to go defend your family. You know why he's in jail, right?
I don't know the whole story now.
So basically, like somebody was doing something to either his daughter or one of his family members, who is a minor, who's basically a child. I think they tried to touch them or something happened,
Uh,
and he found out about it, and he took matters into his own hands and almost killed the guy, and that's why
Whoa.
he's in jail.
Yeah, well,
I don't
yeah,
blame him.
yeah, yeah, not a good idea to mess with the wrestler's kid.
No, he's not a wrestler. He was a MMA fighter turned
Or
wrestler.
MMA, or MMA, the same difference. I mean, yeah, you got to
Oh,
be out of your mind to want to,
dude, yeah, I had an amazing opportunity, and I learned so much about lucha libre history while doing that I miss not being around it. The independent scene is crazy, and it is a fun environment to be in. I recommend
Oh yeah,
anybody out there go check out independent wrestling shows. I will most definitely be at TWF September 13th
right, right.
at the
Okay,
Eagles Hall,
all
right?
right. Well, we will hook up that night for sure.
We
All
will
right,
1,000% hook up that night, brother.
all
I
right.
know you have to get going. Uh,
Yes. And so now you will be on our show tomorrow.
I will be on your show tomorrow. Is there an got? Let them know where they can find your show. Hey, man.
Port City Uncensored. People told me you can just Google it, and it'll take you there. YouTube, same thing. It'll come right up. It's on my YouTube channel. I'm also on Facebook and X.
Facebook and X, guys.
Uh,
Go follow, subscribe to Port City Uncensored with J-Man Jack, the host of the show, and his co-host Scotty, if I'm not mistaken, doing
that's it.
amazing things, bringing eyes and attention to the Stockton area, 209, baby. And yeah, guys, thank you for joining me on this episode. I appreciate you all for being here. Remember, desire is power. If you desire to be great, you have the power to be great. I will catch you guys next time. Don't forget to hit